Runways. Thousands of them exist across the globe. Long strips of carefully painted concrete and asphalt where humans hurl metal tubes into the sky at ridiculous speeds. I'm obsessed with them. My name's Joel. Friends call me Jojo. Let's begin. First, the numbers. You might think runway numbers are random, like lottery tickets, or the number of regrets you have. They're not. They're based on magnetic compass headings. This runway points 90 degrees east, so it's called runway 09. Why not 90? Because aviation hates efficiency. We drop the last zero. It's tradition, like fruitcake at Christmas. Nobody knows why, but here we are. Here's the clever bit. Runways work both ways. Flip it around and you're pointing 270 degrees west. That's runway 27. 9 plus 18 equals 27. Math. The same math we all pretended to understand in school and now use exactly once to explain runway numbers at dinner parties. You're welcome. But what happens when you have multiple runways pointing the same direction? Chaos? Anarchy? A strongly worded letter to the airport manager? No. Letters. Left gets an L, right gets an R. If you have 3 parallel runways, the middle one gets a C for center. This system is regulated by the FAA, that's the Federal Aviation Administration, and ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization. They're the reason airports from India to Ethiopia all follow the same rules. It's beautiful, really. Global cooperation, standardization, humanity working together. Anyway, some airports have 5 parallel runways. Looking at you, Atlanta, this is where it gets interesting. You can't use 4 letters, so you number them to different magnetic azimuths. One set gets the nearest 10th, the other set gets the next nearest 10th. 8L, 8R, 9L, 9R, 10. Because you can't just keep adding letters. That would be absurd. These white stripes at the beginning of the runway are called threshold markings. They look like piano keys, which is appropriate, because landing a plane is a lot like playing Chopin. Requires precision, practice, and occasionally ends with someone crying. Those big numbers? They're painted exactly to specification. Height, width, spacing, all measured to the centimeter. Because when you're traveling at 150 knots, you need to know which runway you're landing on. You can't just guess. Well, you can guess. Once. But only once. Here's something that should be taught in driving school but isn't. Runways have white markings. Taxiways have yellow markings. Go for a refund if your flight lands on the yellow markings. Does it happen? Yes, once in a while. But be sure the FAA will be your friend for some time. This distinction is critical. White means you can fly here. Yellow means this is for rolling, not flying. Mixing these up is called a runway incursion, and it makes air traffic controllers very, very nervous. And you don't want to make air traffic controllers nervous. They control your ability to not die. Speaking of air traffic control, this is their tower. From up here, they orchestrate the beautiful ballet of aviation. Planes taking off, landing, taxiing. It's like conducting a symphony, except everyone's moving at 200 miles per hour, and mistakes are significantly more catastrophic than a missed violin cue. Controllers pick which runway to use based on wind direction. Planes prefer to take off and land into the wind. It's physics. More wind over the wings means more lift, which means shorter takeoff distances and gentler landings. Flying with the wind is technically possible, but requires more runway, and results in what pilots call a sporty arrival, which is code for, we almost ran out of pavement and everyone's hands are sweaty. Watch this plane land. Notice how it lines up with the white dashed center line. That center line is perfectly straight, perfectly centered, and perfectly essential. Those 2 rectangular markers? Aiming point markings. They tell pilots where to start their flare. That's when you pull the nose up slightly to transition from falling with style to gently kissing the ground. And there, touchdown zone markings. Groups of rectangular bars showing the ideal landing area. Land here and you're a professional. Land way past these and you're that guy everyone talks about in the pilot lounge. Everything you see is standardized. The spacing, the dimensions, the paint thickness, all regulated down to the millimeter. Because when you're landing a 200-ton aircraft full of people who paid $800 for a middle seat, precision matters. At night, runways transform into ribbons of light. White lights along the edges. Green lights at the threshold. Green means go ahead and land here. Red lights at the far end. Red means stop immediately, or you're about to meet a fence at speed. Give that airline a 1 star if this happens. Nobody wants to deboard a plane onto a fence or crumble of concrete. Atmospheric night lighting. These lights, stretching out from the runway, are the approach lighting system. In bad weather, they guide pilots like breadcrumbs lead children through a forest. Except these breadcrumbs are extremely expensive and maintained by very dedicated electricians. There are multiple types of approach lighting systems: ALSF1, ALSF2, MALSR, SSALR, each with specific configurations. I won't bore you with the details, but know that somewhere, an engineer is very proud of them. Sometimes you'll see arrows painted before the main threshold. This is a displaced threshold. It means you can roll over this section, but you absolutely cannot land on it. Why? Maybe there's a ditch. Maybe there's a road underneath. Maybe there are aggressive geese. The reason doesn't matter. What matters is you don't land there. But you can use that as part of your takeoff roll. Rules are rules. So there you have it. Runways. They're numbered by magnetic heading divided by 10. They're marked with white paint in patterns so specific that manuals exist just to explain the markings. They're lit like Christmas trees at night. And they're maintained by armies of engineers, technicians, and inspectors who take their jobs very seriously. Every commercial flight you've ever taken started and ended on one of these. Every vacation, business trip, family reunion, all made possible by carefully regulated strips of pavement with very particular numbers painted on them. Some people think runways are boring, just long roads for planes, but those people are wrong. Runways are marvels of engineering, international cooperation, and obsessive attention to detail. They're the reason we can wake up in New York and eat lunch in Accra, the reason you can fly for your vacation in London, the reason we live in a world where the sky isn't a boundary, it's a highway. Hey, I appreciate your attention. This has been Runways, just so you know next time you fly. I'm Joel Rye, check my other videos. Thank you for indulging my obsession with painted pavement. Fly safe. Land on the white lines, not the yellow ones. And remember, 9 plus 18 equals 27. Hey, give me a thumbs up and tell your friends.
Minimums: 100, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. Retard.